Welcome back, dear viewers. This is episode 24, and we discussed my move to the Godrej colony, my dad's job at Godrej soaps. So, I thought today I would give you a little background about the Godrejes and about the Parsee community. So, as many of us are aware, the Parsee community had to flee from Iran, and I guess we call them the Parsees, which is a modified version of the word Farsi, which is the language they spoke, Persian. So, the story goes that the Parsee community, who are the fire worshippers, at that time in the Middle East, communities worshipped the natural elements. As many of us are aware, there were some meteorites that are in that region, and some people worshipped those holy stones that were later destroyed. I think just one is there, one or two. So the Parsee community were fire worshippers, and they worship at the Agyari, and they had to flee Iran to save their lives if they wanted to save their faith and did not want to convert. So the story goes that they did get on a ship and go to a few places to seek refuge, but they were turned away, and they reached Gujarat, I guess the port of Surat, and there the king did allow them to stay. So the story goes that the communication had to happen in a different way since the language was not the same. So the king of Surat represented a full glass of water to say that we don't have space for anyone else. And then the representative of the Parsee community apparently added a spoon of sugar or salt. There are different stories about that, to indicate that we would blend in with you and we would not really impose on you. So they did stay in Gujarat, and as we can see, they adopted and adapted to the region. So they adopted the sari, the dressing, they started wearing the feta, I guess. So the ladies did not want to really leave their traditional covering, the innerwear that they wore. So they did continue to wear that innerwear, and then over that they wore a sari. And I think in later generations, the ladies started wearing a more jali, transparent kind of thing to honor tradition, but also to not look awkward with a white innerwear popping out between the blouse and the sari. Then the food, as we know, Parsees would be traditionally meat eaters, but they did adapt and adopt the dal, and they started making different kinds of dishes that mixed the Indian style of cooking and their traditional style of cooking. So that's about the Parsee community. Now the name Godrej. Apparently there's a tribe in Iran called Godrejes, and the word Godrej is a modified or corrupted version of the tribe name. So the person who founded the Godrej company would be Ardeshir Godrej. He, along with his brother Piroj Shah, started the company. Now, I have seen Piroj Shahji's children, who would be Sohrabji Godrej, Burjoji Godrej, Nauroji Godrej, who is Naval and Soonu played a big role in the school and the community at Godrej. So I always looked up to her as this elegant lady, and like she carried herself so well. She had this whole look put together so well. She had the pure white hair, and she wasn't particularly old, but she had all her hair white, and she had a very elegant bob cut of the time. And she used to wear a white sari, white blouse, and then obviously the Parsees are very light skinned. So that whole look together, she looked amazing. Like we used to totally, I basically looked up to everyone, but then I really looked up to these people. Now the Godrej name, to me it spelled out elegance and class and subtlety and quality, everything that was wonderful. I guess they did represent that. And I remember my dad always telling me that the Godrejes have such high ideals. They believe in simple living, high thinking, and he even told me that the senior Godrejes, he said they would just put a mat on the floor and sleep, And I used to find that so inspiring. I was like, wow, do they really live like that? And I also tried that, just putting a mat on the floor for a bit, until my mom wouldn't have that anymore. So dad did tell me that this is how the Godrej Seth, some of them, he used to call them Godrej Seth. He said this is how they live, and you could even see it. The senior Godrejes, you could see Sohrabji, Burjoji walk around in just a white shirt and white pant, very simple dressing. And also I have witnessed them being so frugal in terms of being very conscious of the environment and resources. So they would recycle envelopes, they would reuse an envelope, they would cancel out the previous name and put the new name, they would try and recycle paper. So seeing such things as a little child growing up, I found it so inspiring, and I looked up to the Godrejes so much. And we are all aware that at the beginning, what was the quality of the Godrej products, like the cupboards, you had them for decades and decades and decades and nothing would happen. The fridges, the same thing. Their soaps, like everything, Godrej stood for quality at the time. So I just looked up to that whole family so much, and I found them so inspiring and so amazing. And even the cars, I hear that Ardeshirji would not even like own a car, but his brother would kind of send a car for him. So all these things are so amazing. So now, Pirojsha ji was responsible for setting up that whole Vikhroli setup. Initially, I think they operated from Lal Bagh mainly. The factory was at Lal Bagh, the locks factory, and then I think the soap factory also. And then later they made Godrej Bhavan at Nariman Point. I think, yeah, I think Godrej Bhavan was at Nariman Point. Later, my sister would do a summer job as a selling typewriters over there. So she did do the whole thing, walking all around the fort area, going to different offices. Yup. So coming back to the Godrej's background story. Pirojsha Godrej was responsible for that whole setting up of the township. And if you were to see it in those days, I mean, I obviously saw it only in the late 70s, but everything was good quality. Like the roads, we never had these broken roads like you see the municipality, horrible roads which they get contractors to do, and then as soon as it rains, there are holes because nobody puts enough of the binder in the bitumen. So they had high quality roads. The building quality was so good. There were 4 wings on each of our buildings. So if you see, one wing was one house. So each house had 3 side ventilation. That was so amazing. Like enough light flooding in, enough breeze coming in, enough ventilation. They used steel for the doors. We had these amazing steel doors with ergonomic handles and innovative, creative keys inside, when you want to just lock your house from the inside. And that was such an innovative idea. I always admired it. And if I see the handles in my house today, it is supposed to be a handle that you can grip and turn, but really how much thought goes into it. As you pass by, the handle grabs your sleeve, like the shape is such. So that is not an ergonomic design. And the Godrej colony handles were such that they wouldn't come in your way, they wouldn't hurt you as you passed by. Such thoughtfulness. So I always admired that. So we had all steel doors, and like I had mentioned earlier, there were these ventilators over the doors and windows. You could open just those if you didn't want to open the actual door or window for the cross ventilation. And then there were these curly steel bars, zigzag steel bars, horizontal ones, to protect you. So the whole design was so well thought out, and like I had mentioned, they probably had some German architects, and the high school design, if you see. So there were such attention to detail. Like for example, the bathroom slopes. It is only afterwards when I saw how badly designed or executed bathrooms are. Like no matter where in the later years I have lived, there will always be water collected at some corner. It doesn't drain out naturally. So these are such basic common sense things which these engineers, pathetic engineers nowadays can't even pay attention to. I've never seen a bathroom with a good slope these days. So such attention to detail, such small factors like drainage and all of that, they paid so much attention to it. Well designed, well executed, well laid out colonies. So that was so beautiful. And then the bungalows over there, and the whole thing was so beautiful. There were two hills behind our buildings. Like I said, I think now those hills are no more. I think those were sold off to Hiranandani, and now there's just a wall that separates. There's a road that leads to that Bamkhana area behind the buildings now. So those hills don't exist anymore. Hiranandani probably flattened them. And we had a quarry on the other side. That quarry also, I mean, they kept on quarrying, and then there was no longer a hill over there. So there were 3 different campuses for the 3 schools. So for the longest time, I thought all schools were like our school. So later when I had to go for admission for my children, I would keep thinking, why is this school like this? Like, I thought that particular school was bad. But later when we moved to different places and I saw many different schools, I realized that schools are not like our schools. Like, our school was really unique. I did not realize that then. So we had 3 different campuses: the pre-primary campus, the primary campus, and then the high school campus, which was a little away from those 2. And when we moved, I joined straight away in first standard. So I used to always look longingly at the pre-primary school. And I used to hear from Molly, like they had a little pool once a week or so in summer. They used to carry a change of clothes and splash around in the pool. And they had a dollhouse. And in my mind, I would long to just once see that dollhouse and those kind of things. So I totally loved the layout of the school. I loved walking those hallways. It was open gallery hallways, not like nowadays schools where the classrooms are the outside and there's a claustrophobic hallway inside. It was not like that. Very open layouts, very beautiful, sunny and full of light and full of air and breeze. Absolutely delightful places to be in. And also the carvings that were there, the statues, very nice. So the quality consciousness and the approach and attitude of Ardeshir and Pirosha ji was apparent in the whole township as you went around it. And in fact, there's something I think of when I read about B.K. Karanjia's write-up on the 100 years of Godrej. I could identify with one aspect. I mean, of course, I dare not compare myself with an entity like Ardeshir Godrej, but still one little bit kind of just resonated with me. So even as I find myself frustrated at being so gullible, as to be taken advantage of repeatedly, which has happened more recently when I was getting my house done and the contractors just ripped me off. I find myself remembering the words of B.K. Karanjia on the amazing Ardeshir Godrej. So, dare I identify with such a great personality? Anyway, I see some similarities, especially since he and his family were such an inspiration to me. And I looked up to them. So, alas, the kids just see this as a business that they have to compete in. I mean, lost are the ideals and simplicity. But Ardeshir ji also did give like money to people, trusting them. So I feel happy to think that it is not a sign of a supreme dumbness or unintelligence that you end up giving money to some people or you end up being gullible. So it's since there are multiple intelligences, I see that as one kind of intelligence. Like, I'm not a good judge of character, not a good judge of people, and I don't know whom to trust. But when I hear that Ardeshir ji was gullible sometimes, so then I feel, okay, so I'm not a lost cause completely. There are some great, intelligent, amazing, meticulous people, achievers, who also have this quality of being a little gullible. So it's okay. So as I was saying, quality is an underlying feature of everything within that whole Godrej complex. The basic roads, or in front of our high school, we had this beautiful horse statue, all the little things. And also you could see the hand of Parmeshwar Godrej in some of the things. I know she is an army kid, like my dad was in the army, so yeah, she is also an army officer's kid. And I believe her name was Parmeshwari earlier, and she was an air hostess. And then she and Adi dated. That was so adorable, cute. And then after they got married, I guess she also contributed to the design. And as we would walk later from home to school, you could just see these beautiful layouts. There were little ponds with lotuses, and we had all these migrating birds over there. Because the creek side, like I mentioned, we had mangroves, and the Godrej family had committed to not touching the mangroves, to leaving them as they were. So the migrating birds would come there in winter, and they would be all over on those trees inside our campus also. Like in front of the factories, there were lovely compounds, there were trees. So these migrating birds would be on those trees, and we would see them. That was really nice. So I remember really enjoying that walk to school, admiring my surroundings. So you could also see Parmeshwar Godrej's contribution to that. Another incident I remember involving Soonu, I think the Godrej ladies, a few of them, they were visiting an exhibition at our school, and I was one of the persons presenting, and I was to talk about the cave people, the early dwellers, early humans. And I, with great confidence, I explained their lifestyle and how they lived. And then I think Soonu Beno, one of the ladies, asked a question about how I knew that. And I was like, no, no, it's true, they lived like that. And they just kind of laughed. I think they were just jesting. I was a kid and I thought, oh no, I have to answer their questions correctly. And I really enjoyed hosting that exhibition. We used to have every year 3 days of an exhibition, something that we did, a project that we did, and then we were to present it. And that was really nice, being there all day and explaining our exhibition to all the parents and all the people who came in. So back to how I thought Sohrabji and Burjoji lived in their simple living, high thinking manner, which was supremely inspiring to me. And I always tried to follow them. Like, they led by example. They didn't have to say stuff. You could see it in their behavior, see it in their demeanor, see it in their actions. I remember once in our school, one Maharashtra song was sung when I don't remember which of the Godrej Seth was invited, and he came onto the stage during his speech and he said, "Why just proud of Maharashtra? Let's be proud of India. Let's be Indians first." And he said this in the 90s before Shah Rukh Khan said it in Chak De India. So yes, also every time that the IMTEX exhibition was hosted at Godrej, the machine and tools exhibition, uh, is it India in machine and tools or international machine and tools? So we school children used to all go and see that exhibition. We used to see all the stalls. So that exposure was so amazing. All of these things that I saw growing up while I lived at the Godrej colony and studied at the Godrej schools, I feel that was a very important part of character building, where I'm so particular about what is right and what is wrong, and I don't just let things go. And also the attention to detail. When I am into something, I'll go so deep into it, I'll study it. And I feel all of this comes from that time, that those were the molding experiences for me. And also, if you talk about simple living and high thinking, oh my god, so dad used to tell me that these Godrej Seth would keep on repairing their shoes at the mochi and keep on wearing them, and I was like, whoa, they're so rich and they do that. And I personally witnessed this kind of thing where Jaiben, who was Burjoji's wife and Adi's mother, she would teach at our school. She didn't need to teach, she could do something more glamorous, but she loved to teach math. And the way she would do it is, she would take one incoming batch of the 5th standard children, she would be their math teacher, and she would continue with those children until their 10th. So she kept on teaching that particular class, math, and she had such a nice creative way of teaching. And then when they passed 10th, then she went to the next 5th standard batch, so she wouldn't go to others in between. And I have personally witnessed her simple dressing, simple, I think, cotton or linen sari, such a basic simple hairstyle. And she would go to the craft room. We had the stitching room where we learnt embroidery and stitching and knitting and all of that. We had that craft room where there was also a couple of sewing machines. We had Sita Ben and Roshan Ben over there. Sita Ben was a Gujarati, Roshan Ben was a Parsee. And Mrs. Jai Godrej would go there and repair clothes. She would be stitching stuff, repairing clothes. Oh my God, can you believe these millionaires, billionaires? I don't know if they're billionaires, but going and repairing their clothes and repairing their shoes and just reusing until the stuff could not be reused anymore. Can you imagine such conscientious people, such lovely people? And yeah, so those were very inspiring experiences for me, and I loved being in that Godrej community. I loved growing up among Parsees, and I just thought I would give you some background about the Parsees and the Godrejes in this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to my narration about the Parsee community and about the Godrej family, the seniors. We have not yet reached Adi and his children, so we would maybe discuss that another time. So that's all for now, my loves. Have a good day, stay healthy, and I will see you again soon. Please do give a thumbs up if you liked this episode. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not yet subscribed. Thank you. Bye bye.